300 guests, 46 chandeliers, every face in the room hidden behind a mask. He sees her the moment the scent reaches him. White jasmine, sandalwood underneath. Her perfume, cutting through everything else in the room like it was looking for him specifically. She is standing at the edge of the dance floor in an emerald gown, watching the orchestra, completely unaware that the most dangerous man in Seoul has just stopped breathing. He puts his glass down. He walks straight to her. No preamble, no small talk. He stops in front of her, stretches out his hand, and looks at her, with the quiet certainty of a man who does not ask for things twice. Dance with me. Not a question, not a request. A command, wrapped in enough warmth that it does not feel like one. She looks at the hand, saw then up at the black and gold mask above it. Then she puts her hand in his. He leads her onto the floor. The other couples drift apart around them without being asked. The orchestra shifts into something slower, something that has no business being this perfectly timed. He holds her at the right distance, his hand at her waist certain and warm, his hand holding hers steady. Neither of them speaks. The music fills the silence between them. He watches her face in the amber light, the way she carries herself, the way she moves with him without fighting the pace of him, the way she is trying very hard to look like this is ordinary. It is not ordinary, not for either of them. 2 minutes. They dance for 2 minutes, and the floor thins around them, and the world reduces itself to the space they occupy, and the music, and the slow, impossible weight of 11 years compressed into this single orbit. Then he lowers his head toward hers. His lips find the edge of her jaw, her cheek. And then, slow, certain, without apology, he kisses her. Deeply. She does not pull back. For one long suspended moment, she is completely still in his arms, and the ballroom, and all 300 people in it, fall away, and there is nothing in the world except this. His hand moves to her jaw. Her fingers curl in his jacket. The chandeliers burn amber above them, and the orchestra plays on, and none of it touches them. Then he pulls back just enough to whisper against her lips. His voice is low and warm and absolute. I have waited 11 years for this, and I will wait as long as it takes to have you. All of you. She goes completely still. Her hands, which had been pressed against his chest, drop away. She takes one step back, then another. Then she is moving fast through the crowd toward the corridor doors, her emerald gown trailing behind her, weaving between guests who don't know what just happened and wouldn't believe it if they were told. He follows immediately. The corridor outside the ballroom is long and marble-floored and empty. The party sounds muffled behind the heavy doors. Her heels click fast against the stone. He keeps pace. Zoe, she doesn't slow. Zoe, please, just listen to me. Still walking. Give me 1 minute. That is all I am asking. 1 minute. He is right at her shoulder now, matching her stride. His voice low and urgent in a way it almost never is. This man who has never needed to chase anything in his life is chasing her down a corridor with everything he has kept locked away for 11 years spilling into the air between them. She stops. Not because of what he said, because of what she sees. He realizes it half a second after she does. He was so focused on her that he didn't see the figure coming from the far end of the corridor until he is almost upon them. A man. Tall. Composed. Clean-cut, expensive jacket. The kind of face that photographs as trustworthy at first meeting. Walking toward Zoe with the easy certainty of someone who considers this space his territory. His eyes are only on her. Zoe's whole body changes. The woman who was moving fast and alive a moment ago becomes very still. Her chin lifts. Her shoulders square. The specific practiced preparation of someone arranging themselves before something they have faced many times. The man reaches her. He cups her face in both hands like he owns it, kisses her forehead, says her name with the particular ease of possession. There you are. I've been looking all over for you. He is smiling. It almost reaches his eyes. Then he sees Junho. The smile stays. Everything underneath it changes. And you are? Junho looks at the man. Then at Zoe. She is not looking at him. She is looking at the floor between them, her jaw tight. And in that 1 second of avoidance, he understands, with the clarity of a man who reads rooms for a living, everything he needs to know. Junho Han, this is my family's estate. Welcome. Mark Yoon, Zoe's husband. Husband. The word lands in the corridor like a stone dropped into deep water. Not boyfriend, not partner, husband. He puts his arm around Zoe's shoulders, not affectionately, territorially. Junho looks at her once more. Her hand, the one on the side Mark cannot see, is pressed flat against her own thigh. Hard. The way you press something when you are trying not to let it show. He sees it, he notes it, he files it. I hope you're both enjoying the evening. Please, enjoy the rest of the night. He nods once. He walks back toward the ballroom. He does not look back, but the hand pressed flat against her thigh does not leave him for a long time after. If this story already has you, hit like and subscribe right now, because to understand what happened next, you need to know where it all began. It started the way most important things start, quietly, in an ordinary room, on an afternoon that had absolutely no idea what it was setting in motion. He was 19 years old. He walked through the Han family estate with a document in his hand, already being shaped into the man he would become. Serious, contained, aware of the weight of everything his family name carried. He was passing the kitchen doorway when his feet stopped. He didn't decide to stop. His feet simply stopped. A girl at the kitchen table, 14 years old. School uniform still on, braids, a pencil tucked behind her ear. Bent over a textbook with the focused intensity of someone who has decided this problem is going to submit whether it wants to or not. She was humming something under her breath, low and absent, completely unaware she was doing it. Something about her was entirely self-contained, entirely her own. The corridor light fell directly across her page. She looked up. You're blocking my light. Not rude, not coy, not impressed. He was simply an obstacle between her and something she needed, and she dealt with it the same way she dealt with everything. Directly, without ceremony, and without giving him a second look once he moved aside. He stepped aside. She went back to her homework. He went to the study and read the same paragraph 6 times and eventually gave up and stared at the wall for 20 minutes. He never recovered from it. He tried. He was disciplined about it for 11 years. He kept the right distance. He was warm and professional whenever they happened to be in the same room, which he made sure was as rarely as possible. He found reasons to be elsewhere whenever she came home to visit her mother. He built his walls carefully and maintained them, and every single time told himself it was the right thing, the only reasonable thing, the only choice a man in his position could make. He believed that exactly never. Every time she walked through that estate, she lit something up in him that had no business being lit. Every time she left, she took it with her like it belonged to her, which in some way he had long suspected it did. And he stood in what remained and chose silence and responsibility and distance. He chose all of that for 11 years. Until the night of the masquerade. The morning after the masquerade, she sat at the kitchen table with both hands around a cold coffee when her mother sat down across from her. Neither of them spoke first, the kind of silence that had been waiting. I kissed him back. Her mother went very still. At the masquerade. He kissed me and I kissed him back. And then he whispered something and I pulled away and walked out. And then Mark was there in the corridor and I... She stopped, pressed her lips together, breathed. What did he whisper? A pause long enough to mean something. He said he'd waited 11 years. He said he would wait as long as it takes to have me. Her mother put both hands flat on the table and looked at them for a moment. Then she looked at her daughter. And how did that feel? Like something I've been waiting to hear for a very long time, which makes everything worse, not better. Her mother nodded slowly. She got up and refilled both mugs without being asked. She sat back down. And Mark saw you together. He saw us in the corridor. He didn't see the kiss. But he saw us standing close, and he had that look. What look? The one where he's very calm and very pleasant, and he's filing everything away to use later. Her mother's jaw tightened. How long has he been doing that? Since about a year in. Maybe earlier. The calls first, checking where I am, when I'll be back, why I didn't pick up. And he always frames it as love. Always concern. Always, I just can't bear the thought of something happening to you, Zoe. And I believed it. I told myself it was just how he loved. Her mother listened without interrupting. That was how she listened when something was serious. Last month, he locked me out of our apartment. I sat in the hallway for 2 hours. When he finally let me back in, he said it was because I made him anxious by coming home late without calling. He said it was my fault. And I stood in my own hallway and I apologized to him. The silence that followed had weight. 2 hours. 2 hours. In the hallway of your own apartment. Yes. Her mother reached across the table and took both her hands. You're not going home yet. You're staying here. If I stay, he'll come. Let him come. Mom, you know what this house is. I know exactly what this house is, and I know exactly who runs it. Let him come. A long pause. Zoe looked at their joined hands. Does Junho know? About Mark? About what the marriage has been? He knows you're married. He found that out last night in the corridor. The rest? No. Are you going to tell him? She looked at the window. The garden was coming into focus in the morning light. The koi pond caught the first gray shimmer of dawn. I don't know yet what I'm going to do. I don't know anything right now except that I can breathe in this kitchen in a way I haven't been able to breathe for a very long time. Her mother squeezed her hands once, and then let them go and went back to the stove. That was her way of saying, then stay. Stay and breathe. Everything else can wait. He found her at the koi pond bench 2 days later. She was sitting with a book open in her lap that she was not reading, watching the fish move in slow amber circles below the surface. He sat beside her without asking. He had always done this, sat beside her without asking, as if the space next to her was his and he simply hadn't been using it. She had always let him. Neither of them spoke for a while. The garden was cool and still. The city hummed beyond the estate walls. I owe you an apology. He turned to look at her. She was still watching the fish. I should have told you before the dance. Before any of it. The moment you approached me, I should have said I'm married, clearly, and I didn't. So, I'm sorry. He was quiet for a moment. You have nothing to apologize for. I do. What I let happen. What you let happen was 2 people who have been circling each other for 11 years, finally standing in the same place at the same time. You don't apologize for that. She turned and looked at him. He was watching the water. I kissed you back. I know. I want to be honest about that. I didn't get swept up. I didn't not know what was happening. I kissed you back deliberately. He turned to look at her then. His face in the morning light was open in a way it almost never was. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve the honest version. Because if this is going to be a conversation we're actually having, and I think it is, then I want it to start from the truth. And the truth is that I have felt something for you since I was old enough to understand what it meant. And I have been very sensible about it for a very long time. And last night, I stopped being sensible, briefly. And then Mark was there. And I went back to being sensible. A pause. The koi moved below the surface. You don't sound like someone who wants to be sensible. I don't particularly. But I am a married woman, and I am not the kind of person who... I know what kind of person you are. I've been paying attention for 11 years. She looked at him for a long moment. Something in her expression not quite ready, but not closed either. Something waiting for information it didn't yet have. Is he good to you? She was quiet. I am asking because I want to know, not because I'm building a case. I am asking because you pressed your hand flat against your leg when he put his arm around you last night. I saw it. I have not stopped thinking about it since. Something shifted in her face. A small crack in the composure she maintained so naturally. He loves me in a way that makes me feel like less than I am. I've told myself for 2 years that it would change. It hasn't changed. If anything, it gets— She stopped. It makes me feel small. Every day I'm in that apartment, I feel smaller than the day before, and I have been waiting for it to stop, and it does not stop. He said nothing for a moment. He let it settle between them, not rushing to fill it, not rushing to fix it. Just sitting with what she had said, the way you sit with something true. You are the least small person I have ever known. You have never been small. Whatever he has been doing to you, that is his failure of perception, not your reality. She looked at him. The directness of it, the way he said it not as comfort but as fact, landed differently than comfort would. I'm not saying it to make you feel better. I'm saying it because it's true, and I think you know it's true, and I think part of you has been waiting for someone to just say it plainly. A long beat. She turned back to the water. I told my mother I can breathe here, in a way I haven't been able to breathe for a long time. Then stay, breathe. You don't have to decide anything else right now. He'll come. If I don't go back, he'll come here. Let him come. She looked at him sideways. You sound exactly like my mother. Your mother is an extremely sensible woman. She almost smiled. Not quite, but almost. And that almost was more than he had gotten from her all morning, so he counted it. Mark arrived on a Friday morning, moving too fast up the driveway in a rental car. Junho watched him from his office window, watched the man get out, tall, composed, the kind of face that photographs as trustworthy. Watched Zoe appear in the doorway, and watched the way her body changed when she saw him. Not relief, not warmth, preparation. He came down. In the kitchen, Mark's arm around her shoulders, not affectionately, territorially. Her mother at the stove, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Junho leaned against the counter with his coffee and did not leave the room. I've heard a lot about this family. All good things, I hope. Make yourself at home. He said it pleasantly. He watched everything, the hand at her back, the way it steered, the way she flowed with it without resisting, the unconscious flexibility of someone who had learned to take up less space around this particular person. Mark suggested they leave that afternoon. Zoe said she would like to stay a few more days. Mark said he'd come all this way to bring her home. Zoe said she appreciated that. She was still staying a few more days. It was the second time she had said no and held it. That night, from the study, he heard it. Not words, tone, Mark's voice. Low and grinding and relentless. Zoe's voice, carefully flat in the way of someone managing something they had managed many times before. Then something struck the wall. Sharp. Sudden. Then silence. He was out of his chair before he finished deciding to stand. He opened the door without knocking. Mark was 2 feet from her, hand raised, not toward her, but raised. Her back was against the dresser. Chin up, not flinching. She had learned not to flinch. She looked at him in the doorway. He looked at Mark. Step out of this room. This is between me and my— Step out, right now. Something in his voice. The sentence died. Mark stepped out. He looked at Zoe. She shook her head. She was okay, or she was choosing to be okay, and she needed him to let her have that. He nodded. He followed Mark out and pulled the door closed. In the study, he stood in the center of the room and let the weight of who he was do what it always did. I'm going to say this once. Hear every word. Mark opened his mouth. You will not speak until I'm done. He closed it. You will not raise your hand in this house. You will not raise your voice at her in this house. You will not use the tone I heard coming through that wall in this house. Not once. Not again. You will leave this estate tomorrow morning. You will go home. You will begin speaking to a solicitor about ending this marriage cleanly and without drama. And you will never again put her in a room where she has to press her hand against her own leg to keep herself from showing what she feels. He took one step forward. Just one. The room changed. I know what kind of house this is. I know who I am, and I know the reach of what I am. So understand, this is not a suggestion. This is what happens next. She loves me. When you're out of the picture, she'll come back. She will make her own choice. She has always made her own choices. That is what you have never understood about her. You have spent 2 years trying to make her smaller, so her choices would fit inside the shape of what you wanted, and she is still exactly the size she always was. That is who she is. That is who she will still be when this is over. He opened the door. He waited. Mark left. One slow breath. Then he went to find her. He knocked softly. Her voice let him in. She was on the window seat with her knees pulled up, looking at the garden below. He went to the other end and sat. The city glowed beyond the walls. When neither of them spoke for a moment. Are you hurt? No. Zoe! He didn't touch me. It hasn't ever, not that. He's never actually. Okay. He didn't press. He just stayed. You sent him away. He'll be gone by morning. You can't just. I can. And I have. And before you tell me I overstepped, tell me you wanted to stay in that room with him tonight. A long pause. No? Then I didn't overstep. She unfolded slightly. She rested her chin on her knees and looked at the garden. I'm so tired of performing fine. I've been performing fine for 2 years, and I'm so tired of it. Then don't. Not in this house. Not with me. Junho, I mean it. You do not have to perform anything in front of me. Not tonight. Not ever. She turned and looked at him. Really looked. Why do you do that? Do what? Say the exact right thing. It's very inconvenient. I've had 11 years to think about what I'd say if I ever had the chance. She almost laughed. She covered her mouth with one hand. That's either very romantic or very frightening. Probably both. And there it was. The real laugh. Brief, warm, completely unguarded, arriving in the middle of that room where it had no business being. He watched it happen, and something in his chest loosened that had been tight for a very long time. I need to do this myself, end the marriage, file the papers, my way, my timeline. I need you to understand that. I understand that completely. And I'm not saying that because I know what I want on the other side of it yet. I don't know what I want. I know what I felt in that ballroom, and I know what I feel right now, but I need time. Zoe, take all the time you need. I told you I would wait as long as it takes. I meant that. She looked at him, searching. You meant the whole thing, what you whispered. Every word. The part about having me. His gaze held hers. Every word. She breathed in, breathed out. She looked back at the garden. Then go to bed, and let me think. He stood. He went to the door. He stopped with his hand on the frame. For what it's worth, you are not any of the things he has been making you feel like. You never have been. I need you to know I see that clearly. I have always seen it clearly. He went. She sat alone on the window seat and looked at the city and breathed. Just breathed. And the breathing was better than it had been in 2 years. Mark left the next morning. The estate exhaled. She found the library that afternoon. It was a room she had always loved. Tall shelves, the smell of old paper, afternoon light through leaded windows. She had sat in here as a child while her mother cooked. It felt like the safest room in the building. He was already in it when she arrived. Jacket off, sleeves rolled, a book on the desk that he was not reading. He looked up when she came in. Something in his face settled when he saw her, the way a room settles when the person it was waiting for finally arrives. Your mother said you'd been looking for somewhere to sit. She talks too much. She talks exactly enough. She took the chair near the window, the comfortable one. She had sat in this chair since she was 9 years old. How are you doing? Honestly? Honestly? I feel like someone has been slowly letting the air out of me for 2 years, and someone just opened a window. Good. It's not entirely good. It's also terrifying. 2 years of my life, Junho. 2 years I spent inside something and told myself it was normal, and it was not normal. No? How did I not see it? You saw it. You just needed somewhere safe before you could look at it directly. She tucked one foot beneath her in the chair. Is that something you know from experience, or something you read somewhere? Something I observed, watching you. You've been watching me. I have been paying attention. There's a difference. Is there? Watching implies distance. Paying attention implies… Implies what? He looked at her across the room. He looked at… The afternoon light was doing something specific to the air between them, and neither of them was pretending it wasn't. Investment. She held his gaze for a moment, then looked at her hands. Can I ask you something personal? Yes. Did you know? When you approached me at the masquerade, did you know I was married? No, I didn't know. Your mother never told me, and I… He stopped. What? Your mother knew what I felt. I told her once, years ago. I asked her not to say anything. I thought it was the responsible choice. A long pause. You told my mother you had feelings for me. I told her I thought it was better if I kept the distance. She told me I was a fool. I said I knew. She said at least you know that much. She made a sound that was half a laugh and half something else. My mother called you a fool. More than once in that conversation. She's right. She usually is. She was looking at him now with something warm moving in her expression. 11 years, Junho. I know. 11 years of being a fool about it. I prefer the word patient. You would. She smiled. Not the almost smile. The real one. And something in him went very still in the specific way things go still when they are certain. Read your book. I'm going to sit here for a while. You're welcome to sit here as long as you want. Don't make it romantic. It's a library, in the afternoon. You're sitting in the chair you've sat in since you were 9. It is inherently… Don't… Romantic. She threw a cushion at him. He caught it without looking up from his book. She bit the inside of her cheek to keep from smiling. She sat. He read. The afternoon did its slow, warm work, and for the first time in 2 years she felt, in that room, in that light, like herself. 3 days later, Sehun put a folder on the desk and said nothing. He only said nothing when what was inside the folder did all the speaking. Junho opened it. He read it slowly. He read it again. Mark Yoon, 38, financial consultant, clean record, clean reputation, married Zoe Carter 14 months ago in a small private ceremony in Busan. 3 verified meetings with senior members of the Choi organization, the Han Syndicate's most dangerous rival, in the 18 months before the marriage. 2 wire transfers from an account connected to a Choi shell company. A pattern of financial activity that made no sense unless someone was paying him for something that was not consulting. He closed the folder. How long connected to the Choi organization? We believe before the marriage, sir. Possibly well before. He married her knowing who her mother worked for. That is our assessment. She was an access point. Someone with a natural connection to this estate, to this family, to you. He stood. He went to the window. Below him, Seoul carried on its ordinary evening. 30 million people, with no idea what was being decided 48 floors above them. He thought about a woman pressing her hand flat against her thigh in a corridor so her husband wouldn't see what she felt. He thought about 2 years of her life inside something constructed specifically to use her. He thought about the way she said it makes me feel small, and the particular flatness in her voice when she said it. Does he know that we know? Unknown. He's been making calls we can't fully trace. He may suspect his cover is compromised. He will not touch her. That is not a discussion. And Mark himself, sir. He turned from the window. I'll handle Mark personally. He told Mark first. Mark came to the study because he was asked, and the way this house asked for things did not leave much room for refusal. He sat across the desk. The folder was open between them. Mark looked at it. Something changed in his face. Where did you? It doesn't matter where. What matters is what it says and what it means. Whatever you think you know. I know you were recruited by the Choi organization before you ever met her. I know the marriage was a vehicle. I know she was chosen because of her connection to this estate, to me. I know that every day she spent inside that marriage believing she had simply made a mistake in love was a day she spent being used as an instrument. Silence. Mark's composure was working considerably harder than it had been. You can't prove. I have 3 verified meetings, 2 wire transfers, and 4 days of a financial analyst turning your accounts inside out. I can prove more than enough. The question is whether I prove it in a way that involves you, or whether we have a different kind of conversation. He leaned forward. His voice dropped to something quiet and absolute. You will tell me everything the Choi organization asked you to gather. Every conversation, every piece of information you passed, on every instruction you received, completely and without omission. And in exchange, I will give you the opportunity to disappear quietly from this situation, which is a significantly better outcome than the alternative. And Zoe. Zoe is none of your concern any longer. You forfeited that right when you decided she was a tool. She's going to hate you for this, when she finds out you knew 4 days before you told her. That is between her and me. Answer my question. Mark answered his question. It took a long time. He was thorough. He understood clearly what the alternative looked like. When it was done, Junho closed the folder. There's a car waiting. Be in it in 1 hour. Then he went to tell her. He sat in the chair across from her, and he did not soften it, or space it out, or manage her reaction. She was not a person who needed managing. He had always known this. She listened without interrupting. Her face moved through several things in complete silence. Understanding, then disbelief, then understanding again, settling into something heavier and colder. When he finished, a long pause. He married me to get to you. To get access to this estate, this family, the operation. 2 years? Yes. He chose me specifically because of my connection to this house. Yes. I was useful to them because my mother works here. You were the closest available access point to someone they wanted information about. And did they actually get anything? Limited. You were less connected to the estate's operation than they needed you to be. You visited. Your mother works here. That was the extent of it. He got very little. So I was a failed operation. You were a person who was lied to by someone who should have loved you honestly. That is what this is. She stood. She went to the window. She stood with her back to the room. How long have you known? 4 days. 4 days. I needed the full picture before I brought it to you. I needed to know everything, not half of it. 4 days, Junho. I sat in this house for 4 days not knowing this. I know. I'm sorry. That was the wrong call and I know it. A long silence. Where is he now? In a car. Gone from this estate. He won't contact you again. I want to be the one who files the papers, not your lawyers. Me. Of course. I want it to be mine. The ending of it. It will be, completely. She turned around. Her eyes were dry. Her jaw was set. She looked like a woman who had just been handed an extremely heavy truth and had decided to carry it standing upright. I was already done with him. Before the masquerade. In my head, I was already done. I just hadn't moved yet. So when you walked across that ballroom and stretched out your hand, she stopped. Something shifted in her expression. Softer, more private. It was the first true thing I'd done in 2 years. Putting my hand in yours. He crossed the room. He stopped in front of her. Close, but not touching. He just stood there and let her feel that he was there. I'm sorry it took this long. You're here now. Yes. Then stop apologizing and let me be furious about the 4 days, and then we'll talk about the rest. The corner of his mouth moved, just barely. How long do you need to be furious? I don't know. A week. Maybe 2. Noted. She shook her head. He was impossible, and she knew it, and she let herself feel it for a moment, before she put it away for later, when there was less to process. Go to bed, Junho. Good night. He went. She stood at the window for a long time after. The city burned below. The garden was dark and still. The koi pond caught the moonlight. She breathed, in and out, the best it had been in 2 years. She filed the papers herself. Her solicitor, her timeline, her language. She didn't ask him to do anything. He didn't offer. He stayed close and quiet, coffee on the table every morning without discussion, the library lamp left on at night, the koi pond bench kept clear in the mornings in case she wanted it. Presence without pressure. That was what he offered, and she accepted it the same way. Quietly, in without making anything of it, letting it simply be what it was. The anger about the 4 days lasted 6 days. On the 7th morning, she came into the library and sat down and said nothing for a while, and then said, I'm done being angry about the 4 days. How does it feel? Like I did something responsible. I allowed myself to feel it, and now I'm releasing it. That is very emotionally mature. Don't push it. Noted. She settled into the chair near the window. For the record, I understand why you waited. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. That is more than I expected. You were trying to protect me. I was trying to have the full information. There is a difference. The effect is the same. The intention is different. You deserve the distinction. She looked at him over her book. You're very precise about things. I run a very precise operation. Is that what I am? An operation? He looked up. He held her gaze. You are the only thing I have ever been imprecise about. Every careful thing I have ever done in my life has fallen apart in the vicinity of you. You are the single significant exception to every rule I have ever made for myself. You are the opposite of an operation. A long beat. That's the most words you've said to me at once. You bring it out. She smiled. He watched her smile. He had been watching her smile for 15 years, and he was not remotely tired of it. One evening, 2 weeks later, she was helping her mother cook. Her mother rarely allowed help. But that night, she handed Zoe a knife and pointed at the ginger, and didn't say anything else. They worked side by side in the warm kitchen, and it smelled like home, and Zoe realized partway through, mincing the ginger, that her shoulders had come down about an inch. You look better. Mom, you can just say I look good. I said what I said. You look better, like yourself again. They kept working. Her mother added something to the pot. He comes in here every morning before you're up, you know. I know, the coffee. Not just the coffee. He sits, he drinks his coffee, and he looks out the window toward the garden, and then he leaves before you come down. He's been doing it for years. Long before any of this. She was quiet for a moment. Years. Since before you married Mark. He used to sit at this table and drink his coffee, and then go back to the tower. I never said anything because it wasn't mine to say. Why are you saying it now? Because you're almost done being sensible about it, and I want you to have all the information. She set the knife down. She looked at her mother. You called him a fool. I called him a fool to his face, actually. He agreed with me. And yet you kept his secret. It was his to tell, same as yours was yours to tell. I stay out of what is not mine. Zoe picked the knife back up. He's in the library right now. Is he? You could go and talk to him. I am talking to you. After dinner, then. Mom. I'm just saying there are windows in the library that look onto the garden. It's a very nice evening. After dinner, she went to the library. He was at the desk. He looked up when she came in. This time, she didn't take the chair near the window. She went and sat on the edge of the desk itself, directly in front of him, which forced him to lean back slightly and look up at her. This was a new configuration. He allowed it. My mother told me you sit in the kitchen every morning. I have coffee in the kitchen most mornings. Before I come down. Yes. For years. Yes. That's quite a commitment for a cup of coffee. I enjoy the kitchen. You enjoy the kitchen. It has a certain warmth that the rest of the estate lacks. It faces the garden. Yes. And the koi pond is visible from the kitchen window. Yes. And I sit at the koi pond most mornings. You do? So what you're saying is, I'm saying the kitchen has a great deal of warmth and an excellent window. She looked at him. Junho. Zoe, have you been watching me from the kitchen window every morning for years? Paying attention. I said the distinction is the same thing and you know it. He met her eyes. He said nothing. And yet you never said a word. I said plenty of words. I said them 11 years too late, which is a different problem. Yes, it is. A quiet pause. The lamp on the desk made the room gold. Outside the windows, the garden was going blue in the evening. I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer me honestly. Always. If Mark had never happened, if I had come home one of those times, and you had crossed the room then, the way you did at the masquerade, what would I have said? He looked at her for a long time, I think you would have said yes. Yes. I think you have been saying yes to this for as long as I have been not saying anything. Very quietly. Yes. She reached out and put her hand on the side of his face. Just rested it there. You blocked my light when I was 14 years old. I know. And I have been waiting for you to do something about it ever since. He turned his face slightly into her hand, closed his eyes. She leaned down and kissed him, slowly, with nothing held back, with both eyes open. He kissed her back the same way. When she pulled back, she was still close, forehead against his. I'm not done with the papers yet. I know. And I still need time. I know. But I wanted you to know that when the time is done, the answer is yes. He put his hand over hers. His thumb moved once against her palm. Then I'll be here. He came into the kitchen at 7 in the morning and sat at the table. He had the ring box in his jacket pocket. He had had it there for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment, which he had been characteristically precise about identifying. Her mother turned from the stove and looked at him. She read him the way she had read people in this kitchen for 30 years, quickly, accurately, and without sentiment. She pulled out a chair and sat across from him. You're going to ask her. Yes. Today. This morning, if the timing is... The timing is fine. She'll be down in 20 minutes. I wanted to ask you first. Why? Because you have been her person her whole life, and I want that to continue to be true. I'm not asking to replace anything. I'm asking to add to it. Her mother looked at him for a long time. Then, if you hurt her, I will make your life very uncomfortable. I know where every gas line in this building is, and I have no fear of you whatsoever. I know. She comes first. Before this organization, before this estate, before whatever you think is important on any given day. She has always come first. I was simply not in a position to act on it. You're in one now. Yes? A long, thorough look. Then she nodded once and went back to the stove. You have my blessing. She'll be through that door in 18 minutes. If you say something stupid, I will not help you. Understood. And Junho? Yes? She has been saying yes to you since she was old enough to understand what that meant. Don't waste any more of it. He sat at the kitchen table with the ring box and waited. 17 minutes later, the back door opened. She came in a jacket and scarf, cheeks pink from the cold garden, already talking to her mother before she had fully come through the door. "Mom, the wisteria by the east gate is—" She stopped. She saw him at the table. She saw the ring box. She set her scarf down very slowly. He stood. "Let me say all of it. Please." She sat down. He stayed standing. He looked only at her. "You told me I was blocking your light when you were 14 years old, and you went straight back to your homework without a second glance. I have thought about you every day since. Not occasionally, every day. I watched you become someone extraordinary. I watched you build a life and come home, and leave, and come home, and leave again. And every single time I told myself all the right reasons for the distance I was keeping, and every single reason was fear dressed up as responsibility." He paused. He didn't look away from her. "You are not someone who needs protecting from hard things. You have proven that. You got yourself out of the hardest 2 years of your life, on your own terms, in your own time, without asking me to do any of it for you. You are the strongest person I know. You are also, and I mean this with everything I have, the only person I have ever wanted to be in the same room with for the rest of my life." He pushed the ring box across the table toward her. "Marry me, slow, your timeline, your choices. I will not make a single decision for you. I will simply be here, beside you, for as long as you'll have me. That is what I'm asking for. That is the whole of what I am asking for." The kitchen was completely still. Her mother had stopped cooking and was looking at the stove with very bright eyes. "You blocked my light." "I know." 15 years of blocking my light? "I know. That tower has absolutely no personality." "I will give it one." "You cannot give a building personality? Watch me." "You're impossible." "You're going to say yes." "I know I'm going to say yes. I'm making you earn it." Fair enough. She was losing the battle against her smile, and she had completely stopped trying to win it. She reached across the table. She opened the box. She looked at what was inside for a long moment. She looked at him. And then she took the ring out and slid it onto her own finger. Unhurried, deliberate. Her hand, her choice. "Yes." He exhaled. One long, slow breath. 11 years released in a single moment. She stood and walked around the table and put both hands on his face and kissed him, the way she had been wanting to since the masquerade, since the dance floor, since the corridor, since the library, since she was 22 years old and coming home to visit her mother and sitting at the koi pond watching him run the perimeter path and telling herself she wasn't watching. He kissed her back like she was everything he had ever waited for. Because she was. She always was. "The eggs are burning." "Take them off the heat, Mom. I raised you better than this." "She's right, you know." "Don't take her side." She said yes. "I am not arguing with her mother for the rest of my life." She laughed against his mouth. Her mother saved the eggs. The kitchen smelled like home, sesame and warmth, and 30 years of a woman feeding people she loved. And outside the window, the garden was bright in the morning light, and the koi pond was still, and the wisteria by the east gate was doing whatever wisteria does in the early spring, and all of it was exactly right. This is what 11 years of waiting looks like. This. Exactly this. If this story moved you, like, subscribe, and share. New stories every week.